Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at the Beanstalk hack, and I think I'm going to call this the Beanstalk hack explained. My goal is to be able to explain to you in very simple terms what happened. Beanstalk is a protocol that recently got exploited for $76 million. Now, some people are calling it a hack, but it's really more of an exploit than anything else, and I'm going to show you what happened. This isn't going to be one of those videos where I'm going to get really technical and break down all the transactions, although I will give you a resource that you can review that if you want to, if you like to really look at things on the blockchain. I'm going to just try to explain this in the most layman's terms possible. First thing I want to do is briefly introduce you to what Beanstalk is and how they work. We're going to go over an explanation of what happened during the hack or the exploit. I'm going to talk about the team's response initially, which is a little comical, and I'm also going to talk about what their path is moving forward at this point. I want to tell you up front, I'm very excited about this protocol overall. I am rooting that they succeed. Nothing in this video should be considered financial advice. I am just a cryptocurrency enthusiast and a YouTuber. I love cryptocurrency. I love decentralization and finance. I believe decentralized cryptocurrency equals freedom, and I say that in every one of my videos. I recently did a video and I named Beanstalk one of the top 5 protocols that I think could most likely generate a 10x return. If you haven't seen that video, I'll go ahead and link it above. I'll put it down in the description as well. But a lot of people ask me, why would you consider a protocol that has been exploited, consider that as a possible 10x? Because I believe that if this protocol pulls off the recovery, and when I explain how they're going to pull it off, I think it's going to work, then I think they will do very, very well. And I think that I have potential as an investment, not only to make a lot of money in the short term, but in the long run, be able to support a project that I believe the world needs, and that is a true decentralized stablecoin. If you're familiar with algorithmic stablecoins, you're kind of close to understanding the mechanics of Beanstalk. Except Beanstalk's not a typical algorithmic stablecoin. Just to give you an example, and if you don't know what algorithmic stablecoin is, don't worry about it. Subscribe to the channel. I plan to do a full tutorial explaining how algorithmic stablecoins typically work. But let's look over here. I'm not in this project, but I have made a lot of money with algorithmic stablecoins because I understand their strength and their weaknesses. Every single algorithmic stablecoin to date has eventually failed. And the way they work is that you have a token here that's trying to peg to something. In this case, it's trying to peg to the MMF token. Every time it's over pegged, there's going to be some really high APY paid out to the people who hold the share token. And the idea is when it's under pegged, there's a mechanism in place where bondholders are supposed to be able to make a return by supporting the peg or pushing the peg back up. The challenge with every one of these protocols is they normally do well when the pegged product is over pegged. And you can make a lot of money with the share token. The challenge is the price of the share tokens is usually very, very volatile. You can see right now this one was $13,000. I think this one was as high as $40,000 or $50,000 at one point. And the moment that this thing loses peg, this thing usually dumps, and the bond mechanism just never seems to work the way that it should work. It's like the emotions of the market overtake the rational objective of the protocol. And so that's typically what happens. Well, Beanstalk has done some things by using a credit-based system. They've done some things to really prevent a lot of the shortfalls that happens to algorithmic stablecoin. And I'm excited to see where that goes. I think it's going to work. I have not invested in the project yet, but I had been following it for a little while. And unfortunately, on the 17th, they were exploited, or some people will keep saying that Beanstalk was hacked. But let me explain. It was not a hack. It was a full-on exploit. A hack would mean that the code broke or didn't function. This is an exploit, meaning the code functioned exactly the way that it was written to function, but no one expected this particular type of exploit to happen. We're kind of mixing potatoes here. At the bottom line, money was stolen out of the project to the tune of $76 million. And if you go to the website now, of course, they've got everything paused. You see this right here on the front page. And if you go inside the app, and you just see this big, warning right here. I do recommend you go to the Discord. They have one of the best Discords, period. What I mean by that is every week they have these classroom sessions where they explain how to understand the different mechanisms of their algorithmic stablecoin. They are 100% believers in decentralization, which unfortunately in this case ended up being the Achilles heel. But I'm hopeful that the team's going to figure this out and it's going to be fully decentralized again in the future. So exactly what happened? Let's talk about that next. How did someone exploit this project for $76 million? Well, of course, if you've been in DeFi for any length of time, you're familiar with things like elephant money. They used a flash flash loan. But let's look at what they did with that flash loan, because that's the part that's a little bit unique. Shout out to this user on Twitter, Surye. By the way, you can follow me on Twitter if you haven't done so already. Surye here said, Beanstalk is a credit-based stablecoin protocol that was hacked for $80 million an hour ago. Ended up being about $76 million. How? By flash loaning enough collateral to become a supermajority voter and create a proposal to effectively rug the protocol for basically all of its liquid capital in one transaction. So that's the key. A lot of people don't understand how flash loans work. It's very fast, and it's basically a pre-programmed transaction that once it's set off, a whole chain of events happen very, very quickly. Beanstalk uses a protocol of a decentralized price oracle, a decentralized governance mechanism, and a decentralized credit facility. The credit facility separates them from every other project out there that's attempted an algorithmic stablecoin. The fact that they're committed to decentralization is a huge plus. However, in this case, right here he says, however, therein lies a flaw. In case of vulnerabilities, Beanstalk has a voting mechanism where if you have 2/3 majority vote, you can stop the protocol to fix any vulnerabilities without getting exploited, but also can pass any BIP Beanstalk improvement proposal at any time. Again, the idea being that the majority of the community could vote to stop the protocol to fix vulnerabilities. That was the entire purpose in having this mechanic in there. At face value, this sounds really, really good. So hypothetically, if you flash loan enough capital to become a super majority, you can pass any proposals, including this one, the Ukraine donation proposal. The hacker actually donated $250,000 to Ukraine, which it looks like that wallet from Ukraine is actually sending the money back, which is crazy to think about. With a flash loan of $1 billion, now a lot of people read this and they think, man, someone must have had $1 billion. No, they borrowed $1 billion, and they replaced it all within the same transaction. So with a flash loan of $1 billion, they became a supermajority, passed a Beanstalk improvement proposal, rugged the liquidity, and are in the process of tornadoing out funds as of right now, meaning they're hiding the funds. So essentially, all that happened was they used a flash loan to buy up enough of the beans to give them a super majority of the total supply, and then they were able to create a Beanstalk improvement proposal that sent all the liquidity to that one person, that one holder. Once it occurred, the project was essentially drained. So all the liquidity is gone, basically. To participate, you had to make one of 3 LPs: ETH, Bean LP, Bean LUSD LP, Bean 3 Curve LP, or just a Bean token. And basically all that liquidity ended up going to one wallet. They sold the Bean to 3 Curve. They sold everything to ETH. They sent it over the Tornado Cash, basically washed the funds so they hide where it came from, and then they sent it through an Arboretum bridge, and that bridge added another layer of secrecy, and they got the funds over to Ethereum. So $76 million gone out of the platform. So how in the world do you replace $76 million? So let's talk about the team's response and what they're going to do. Publius, who has been the developer this whole time, the head of the whole thing, came out and basically said, we just got exploited for $76 million. We are effed. That was the message. And it was like, that's not a good message from a leader, but you could almost sense the desperation. They're like, what have we worked for? Now it's over. They came out with an official statement. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but it is in the Discord under announcements if you go back to April 18th. And I'm just going to read the first part and the last part, because I think what they said here is a bit telling. And Publius came out and said, at everyone, it is a very humbling set of circumstances that have led to this point. I am Benjamin Wintrobe, and I am here with Brandon Sanderson and Michael Montoya. We are Publius. We are the individuals who created Beanstalk. So Publius was never one person, it was 3 people, as you can see now. Despite our commitment to decentralization, we have decided to disclose our identities because of the events that unfolded over the last day. We had nothing to do with the recent attack on Beanstalk. We had no involvement with and no prior knowledge of the attack. We are not aware of the identity of the individuals who were involved. Like all other investors in Beanstalk, we lost all of our deposited assets in the silo, which was substantial. Early this morning, as soon as we learned of the attack, we contacted the FBI and informed the FBI's Internet Crime Center of the attack. We intend to fully cooperate with the FBI to track down the perpetrators and hopefully recover everything that was stolen. This was the info they had on the attack. You can follow each one of the Etherscan transactions if you would like to do that yourself. At the very bottom, he comes down here and he says, Beanstalk was designed and implemented as an open source decentralized system that could be improved over time via on-chain governance. The governance procedure that facilitated the adoption and implementation of over 1 dozen BIPs since launch, which have dramatically improved Beanstalk, was ultimately used to attack it. We understand that everyone will have lots of questions, and we'll do what we can to continue to update the community as more information becomes available. So this was a bit of a somber read, and it was unfortunate. After this, the community really came together inside the general chat, and they all started coming up with ideas like, what could we do to bring that liquidity back, or some of that liquidity back? How could we save the project moving forward? This would have never happened with any other like algorithmic stablecoin, because you see there's hundreds of millions of dollars that the community has lent to the platform through the credit-based system that they were expecting to get paid back over time. And some of them literally were getting 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x on their money. With the platform not being up, I don't get to show you that, but they were literally in a line of creditors to be paid back, and many of them were going to get paid back significant amounts. So the community ultimately being invested in this project came together, and they started creating ideas, and the Publius team come together and they started developing ideas, and this has transformed, and they're talking about within the next few days to be able to raise $76 million. So you have to ask yourself, who in the world would bet $76 million in a project that was exploited? Well, for one, I'll donate a few thousand myself. But the question is really why? Let me show you this. Shout out to one of our Telegram members for grabbing this and putting it in our Telegram. We'll zoom in on this, but this is basically the proposal that they have going forward. And essentially what they're going to do is use their pod system to reissue debt and do it in such a way to be able to pay back the person who, or the people who show up $76 million worth, or some version thereof. They don't have to have the full $76 million. So the idea is, you can just take a look at this. They're going to basically raise liquidity for the pod line or the credit line, and they're going to also raise liquidity for the silo, which provides actual liquidity to the platform through the LP token. And then they're going to pay back through the new Bean issuance. The issuance occurs every time the project is overpegged by a few cents. 50% of the rewards will go to the silo, everyone who put in liquidity here, and it also goes back to the credit line. Now, mind you, they'd already raised hundreds of millions of dollars in credit. So $76 million is going to go in front of the other creditors. Some people did not like this. But the reason it would go in front of the other creditors is because they're taking on significant risk right now. And the other creditors ultimately need this $76 million so they can see that they can get paid in full at some point in the future. I'll leave this here so you can take a look at it. You can pause the screen. Hopefully you're able to see it if you wanted to actually read through what they're doing right now. I plan to personally invest into this relaunch. I actually cannot wait for it to relaunch. I think this project is so incredible. And the dev team has come out and said that they're going to stop the on-chain governance for now. And they have a plan to be able to put it back in place. But they want to be able to put it back in place so it can't be exploited. They are adamant about having a decentralized system. They were working towards that, and clearly we see a problem with decentralization. There are yet to be mechanics in place to keep complex operations, smart contracts from getting exploited with on-chain governance. So they're going to obviously try to correct this moving forward. But I'm excited to see this project launch because we need a decentralized stablecoin inside of cryptocurrency. Stablecoins are still used most often, and if we don't get a good decentralized stablecoin, then we're going to end up in a centralized stablecoin. And I believe that it is necessary to have a good decentralized cryptocurrency, a good decentralized stablecoin, to be able to win the war of centralization versus decentralization. Because if cryptocurrency ends up being fully decentralized through government-backed currencies or government controls in the end, then I believe the economic freedom that so many of us seek through cryptocurrency will be taken away. So I admire what the Beanstalk team is doing, and genuinely am praying for their success. And I'm looking forward to invest in their success, because if they can pull this off, if they can raise this phoenix up from the ashes, I think their financial rewards could be incredible. But most importantly, the purpose in this project is extraordinary. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you believe in decentralization and you believe in cryptocurrency, and you love earning passive income with cryptocurrency, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. And if you appreciate simple explanations on complex subjects, smash that like button. Decentralized cryptocurrency equals freedom. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.